All right, let's talk about feedback. We've all been there, right? That awkward moment where you have to tell someone they're not quite hitting the mark. It's tough. How do you do it without being a total jerk or, on the flip side, a complete pushover? Well, today we are diving into a framework that might just be the solution you're looking for. So here's the thing. At the root of almost every messy workplace conversation is this false choice we think we have to make. We've got this idea in our heads that we have to pick a side. Are you the nice boss who everybody likes? Or are you the tough, effective leader who gets things done?
Just think about that for a second. Have you ever, held back some really important feedback because you were worried you might hurt somebody's feelings? Of course you have. Or maybe you've seen a manager deliver criticism so bluntly, it just made everyone shut down. This one question really gets to the heart of the problem we're trying to solve.
When we get this balance wrong, we almost always fall into one of two traps, and they're both pretty toxic. On one end, you've got brutal honesty. This is when the feedback is direct, sure, but it's so harsh it just absolutely crushes morale. And on the other end, polite dishonesty. This is where you avoid the hard conversations altogether just to keep the peace. Let me tell you, both of these are a one-way ticket to failure. So, how do we get out of this mess? Well, this is where Kim Scott's brilliant idea of radical candor comes into play. It's a framework that's actually pretty simple, but it's incredibly powerful. It's all about helping you lead by doing two things that feel like they shouldn't go together: caring and challenging. So what in the world is radical candor? Well, it's not about being brutal, and it's not about being fake nice. It's a whole philosophy that's built on doing two things at the exact same time. You have to care personally about the people you're talking to, and you have to challenge them directly. Think of it like having a heart and a spine. You need both. You absolutely have to have both for it to work. And listen, the ultimate goal here isn't just to make you a better communicator. It's bigger than that. It's about building an entirely different kind of culture. A place where telling the truth doesn't destroy relationships, it actually strengthens them. And that trust, that becomes the engine that drives incredible performance. Okay, so let's get practical. How do we actually do this? The absolute best way to understand radical candor is with a super simple 2x2 grid that breaks everything down into 4 main feedback styles. This is where it all comes to life. Think of this grid as a map for all your conversations. On the vertical axis, you've got how much you care personally. On the horizontal, it's how much you challenge directly. And depending on where you land, you fall into one of 4 quadrants. Let's walk through them. Okay, let's start in that bottom right corner. This is where you have high challenge, but really low care. They call this obnoxious aggression. It's basically the brutal honesty we were talking about before. Yeah, you're telling the truth, but without any empathy, it just comes across as cruel, and it absolutely demolishes trust. Now let's slide over to a quadrant where, let's be honest, a lot of us tend to live. The top left. This is ruinous empathy. It's when you care a lot, but you offer almost no challenge. You care so much about not hurting someone's feelings that you just don't give them the feedback they need to actually get better. It feels nice in the moment, but it's a quiet path straight to mediocrity. And then, in the bottom left, we've got the worst of both worlds. This is manipulative insincerity. There's zero care and there's zero challenge. This is the world of passive-aggressive comments, backstabbing, and fake compliments. It is completely dishonest, and it's the fastest way to poison a team's culture. Which finally brings us to our goal. That top right quadrant, the sweet spot we are all aiming for, radical candor. This is where you show up as a real human being, caring personally about the other person, while also having the courage to challenge them directly so they can be their absolute best. It's not the easiest path, for sure, but it is the only one where truth and trust can really work together to get amazing results. So why go through all this trouble? Why does this matter so much? Well, because the payoff isn't just about having better chats. It's about completely transforming your team's performance and building a culture that is just fundamentally healthier and way more effective. So what's the real reward here? When you really commit to being radically candid, the results are huge.
Your professional relationships don't just survive the truth, they actually get stronger. You start to build a culture where people aren't afraid of accountability. They expect it. And that foundation of trust, well, that's what unlocks the incredible collaboration and engagement every single team is chasing after.
You can really think of it like a set of dominoes. It all starts with one thing: the courage to have one-on-one, truly honest conversations. That single act starts building a culture of trust. That trust becomes the fuel for a high-performing team. And when your team is firing on all cylinders, better results aren't just a possibility, they're basically a guarantee. It's a really clear, powerful chain reaction.
Okay, we've talked about the what, the why, and the how. But honestly, the most important part of this whole idea is turning the lens back on yourself. So let's wrap this explainer up with a little bit of self-reflection. I want you to think about the last time you had to give someone tricky feedback or navigate a tense discussion. Be honest with yourself. Where did you land on that quadrant? Did you fall into ruinous empathy just to avoid the conflict? Or maybe you got frustrated and slipped into obnoxious aggression? Or did you find that balance, that sweet spot of radical candor? Figuring out your own go-to style is the first and honestly the most crucial step to becoming a better leader, a better colleague, and a better teammate.